Welcome everybody to another edition of BTS Live. That's Behind the Scenes Live, episode number 27, which I always am amazed when we get to that level, or whatever we do here. Joining me as always, my partner in this endeavor, Mark Rogers. Hey Mark, how are you?
I'm doing great, Marty. A little beat up physically this week. Little beat up.
Really? What happened?
I've got the effects of the car accident, so the neck and the shoulders, and then it's I think the you know, some of the compromises you make when you hurt one thing and then you re-injure something else because of that. You know, I pulled out my back last night, had to run to the chiropractor, so and then tore up my knee playing softball, so I'm hobbling around. It's like a MASH unit over here.
Oh my goodness, jeez. Well, I will say that one of the things that we're looking at here, and let's see if I can go over there without causing a big thing. But so this is Apple Keynote Day, as many of you know, and I'm actually monitoring the Apple Keynote as we speak, and that's actually going on live right now. So I'm trying to keep the information going here. Eddie Q's on the stage. You gotta love Eddie Q. But that's what's going on the Apple Keynote stage. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. This will be interesting because this is like real-time analysis, and I'm trying to do 18 different things at once and look at the chat room, and so we'll see how this thing goes. But Mark, obviously that accident's been catching up to you physically, I guess. So hopefully things start to improve, you start to loosen up, and things get a little better, right?
Oh yeah, we'll get stretched out and get back on the softball field very soon.
Excellent, excellent.
Yes.
I think I want to open the show with a couple of things. One, let me switch to my browser here, so you can tell I'm things I forget to do previously. But one of the things that I want to point out, and I'm still getting used to my my setup here. So one of the things I want to point out is our BTS Live page. That's btslive.com. And the cool thing about that is you can watch the shows anytime. So this is our page, this is our address. We go live every Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as you know. We also broadcast, when we're not live, broadcast our replays 24/7 on the site itself. So you can go here. One of the other things I want to make you aware of as well, and you could tell I'm kind of fooling around here, is our email list. And I invite you guys to join the email list. This is something I forgot to mention last week, but the reason why this is so important is we never know where we're going to be, right? We're relying on Facebook and Blab and all. Blab completely screwed up today. So I tried to schedule a show really as a point of information, but I didn't have any kind of luck with that at all. So I invite you to join our email list. I haven't sent out, you won't get spams. I don't send out a lot of emails, but this is mainly to communicate with everybody. So you can see the URL down there, bit.ly, bit.ly/BTS email. And if you go there, you'll see this sign-up form. It's very simple, 3 lines, and you can on a list. And what I'm planning on doing is sending out regular reminders, especially of the shows, or also, you know, member-only information. We're going to develop this as we go, but again, the whole point is to provide a link to communication and not rely on all these other groups and all that stuff. Next thing I want to point out is our Facebook group. For those of you who have not joined, what are you waiting for? It's a great group of people in there, and really what makes the group are the individuals in it. And you can see the link down there. I made a bit.ly link to make it easy for you guys. If you're on Facebook, if you search BTS Live Show, you'll be able to find the group, and that's what it looks like. If you want to go to this direct link, bit.ly link, it's bit.ly/BTS Live FB. and that'll get you to the group, and you can sign up. And anybody who hasn't, I invite you to, and we'll get you in as soon as the show's over. Anybody signs up, I'll get you in. But we have a lot of great members like Walter and Ross and Brad and Rudy. I mean, Tracy, Steven. There's a ton of people in there, always sharing great stuff, and so I invite you to be part of that as well. And before I forget, I do want to go right to this. This is Steven's page, the Tech Buzz, and the reason why I mention it, especially today. Oops, wait. Of course, I don't have the right link. Okay. Well, I don't have the link. Sorry, guys. The reason I mentioned that today, it's easy. The techbuzz.net. TechBuzz.net. Since it's Apple's keynote day, you want to make sure you tune in later today at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Stephen will be having regulars Mike Myers and Keith Barrett. Along with Stephen, they'll be talking Apple keynote, and it's always a great chat and all that stuff. So definitely invite you to check that out as well. So Mark, we're going to get on. I'm going to go to a couple of questions, speaking of the Facebook group, to lead off the show. And I really appreciate you guys doing this and getting involved with the questions. But I do want to go to a question here that was submitted by Tracy Bass of our Facebook group, and you'll see it on the screen there. And Tracy writes, "Hey guys, hoping I can ask a tech questions here. I want to get a TV mount in our office and be able to connect our Windows laptop and our Mac to it. I'm sure we would need 2 different kinds of cables to do that, but what would they be, or can this be done? Sincerely, your very tech challenged friend, Tracy." Tracy, that's a wonderful question. I think we can help with that, and I thought I had the link here. I probably don't. Let's see. Let me bring it up here. But I found something on Amazon. Basically, what you need to do is if you have the output on your computers, if you have HDMI out, it's a pretty simple fix. And I'm just going to search for it. I should have had it done already, but I think I found something for you. But basically, what you need is you need kind of a splitter. And I think I found something here. I'm going to go to it over here as well. But this is an Amazon page. And I got the Amazon link here. This is the link. I made a short link for you. But this is basically a 3-in-1 splitter. So what this allows you to do, let me just bring it up here a little bit more. What this allows you to do is put up the 3 different HDMI in and have 1 out, and it's switchable. So you'll notice on the top there you can switch. So if you have a Mac or PC, you can actually hook up the Mac into one of the HDMI inputs, the PC into the other one, and then on the top there's a little switch, and you can switch out and determine which one you want to go to your TV. The other thing is if your TV has multiple HDMI ins, that might be also a situation where you can just use 2 cords, but that's the easiest. If it doesn't have HDMI, then you're probably looking at some other adapter solution, which I'm not prepared to talk about. I know there's been some activity in the Facebook group, Alfredo and Rudy, I think some other folks stepping up to kind of answer that question, but you might need some adapters depending on what your output is on your 2 machines. But if it's a late model machine, chances are it has HDMI, and that would probably be the easiest thing to do as well. Mark, have you ever hooked up your, I think you've done some stuff like that, hooked up your Macs and...
Oh, yeah. Got to keep up with Grey's Anatomy with my daughter. That's our guilty pleasure. So
there you go.
Yes,
absolutely.
Netflix is just a step away. Just a
there you go. Absolutely. So let me also cover a couple of stories that were posted in the Facebook group. The first one is the story about Wirecast 7. Now, we all know from the show that Wirecast 6 is the latest version. It's been around for about 2 years, and it was just recently announced, and this was posted by our community member, Rudy Engels. Wirecast 7 officially announced that is coming out. It looks like toward the end of the month or early July, and there's a bunch new features coming with Wirecast 7, and I'm actually going to go to the page itself to check that out. And let me just go to it here. But they've got some really cool features coming up, and I think they've really listened well to the community. And if I can, I'm going to try to find it here, the story. Let me click on it. Sorry, guys. I'm going to find the story here. And where is it? Of course, when you want to find it, I can't find it for the life of me.
Marty, you need a production assistant.
I'm telling you, I got too many things going on here. That's for sure. Let me just put in Wirecast 7. There we go. Okay. And here's the press release. Okay. So, there's some really interesting features here looking at this press release. A couple of them. One, there's going to be a streamlined interface, and it's going to make editing shots a lot simpler and a lot more streamlined. The other thing that really caught my eye was better performance. That's always been, I know a lot of people have been having some challenges with the performance of Wirecast. It takes a lot of CPU unless you have it really tuned right. But there's some GPU accelerated encoding that'll make things a little easier on your computer. Improved CPU utilization, all adding up to a little easier time running it. Also, a couple of really cool features coming out is ISO recording, meaning that if you have multiple inputs into Wirecast, it's going to allow you to record those inputs separately. So say you wanted to edit after the fact, you'll have the raw footage from each of your inputs, and you can put it together after your broadcast if you don't want to go with the switched inputs or switched output, actually. The other thing that really caught my eye is a lot of work on the audio mixing and audio side of things, and adding mix minus is a big addition here for the next Wirecast. So mix minus, as you know, if you have people coming in Skype like we do with Mark, sending them back audio, what you're going to want to do is you don't want to send them back his own audio. You want to send them back everything but his own audio, and that's the minus part. So in Wirecast 7, that's going to allow you to set up a mix minus in the software itself, which is normally a little bit more complex setup with mixers. So you're going to do that in the app itself. The other thing that you have is now you've always had audio delay. So if your audio and video don't sync up, you're always able to delay the audio. But now you can delay the video as well. So they're adding a video delay as well, so you get full control over sync. Let's see what else. Screen capture, a new improved screen capture to be able to capture any part of the screen. Also system audio capture to be able to pull in audio from your system. So it looks like, I mean, I love what I'm seeing here. It looks like they're doing some really cool things. And the other really neat thing, if I'm reading this right here, is that for the first time, let's see, the upgrade. For those of you that have Wirecast 6, the upgrade versions will start at 179. That's for Wirecast Studio. And then it'll be a little higher for an upgrade to Wirecast Pro for the new version. So you can actually buy it now, and you'll be able to upgrade when it comes out as well. So a lot of cool things with Wirecast coming up. So I'm going back here to the keynote here. And what's interesting about this, and let me just bring it up on the screen here, is I'm trying to look at this, and so you get Craig Federighi on screen on stage right now. He's talking about iOS, and it looks like he's talking about HomeKit right now as well. But Mark, talking about the Apple keynote here, I was watching it earlier, and I think some of the big news, and this is off the top. And we're kind of doing this in real time here. We haven't really had a chance to really look at this closely, but the naming convention for these OSs right now, The one that was sticking out was OS X, OS 10. Many of you are familiar with. It's been around since the early 2000s. So it's watchOS, iOS, tvOS, and now it's going to be, instead of OS 10, it's macOS, just macOS. And so that's changing there as well. Some of the early things here, and I'll start with the watch. I saw a little bit of the watch here. One of the complaints early on, and I'm a watch user myself, is the ability to run native apps, which they cured in Watch 2.0 or watchOS 2.0. And in fact, my Siri just went off. and then the other thing is start, the access to apps. So if you were to launch an app on your watch, sometimes it takes a little while to come up. It takes several seconds to come up and to make that connection. And they were demoing today where they've cut that down to almost instant. So they've done some type of optimization with the connection between the watch and the phone, or even actually the apps on the watch itself, since they're native, and you're able to launch it instantaneously. So if you launch it from a complication, so say if you have your timer set as a complication on the watch face, you hit that, and it comes right up instead of waiting several seconds to come up. So a lot of improvements there I've seen. Also, from what they were saying earlier, a lot of the focus on a lot of it's software that I've seen so far, but a lot of the focus has been optimization and how things work together. So right now, you guys know that our Mac users, everything's designed to work together, whether it's the watch, whether it's the TV, the Apple TV, whether it's your Mac, Mac computer, iPad, iPhone, they all work together, continuity, and answering phone calls anywhere and all that stuff. So it sounds to me that they're looking to optimize that even further as well. So Mark, as a regular user, now you don't have a watch, you have an iPhone certainly, and you have a MacBook. Now as far as your use of it, how deep are you into the Apple universe as far as the how things work together?
So yeah, that's the first thing that caught my attention, was the continuity upgrades and being able to sync everything together, and not just be able to sync everything together, but the ease to which you're able to sync everything together. Because if you're doing this as a business, and most of the use that you draw from these products is business, as it is for the two of us, then organization is huge. And that's something I'm still not close to mastery of, but getting better by day. So the ease, the quickness of access, and the continuity between the products and between the different platforms is huge. I do think that I'm not a watch user, but that the different faces that they now have accessible, and the ability to quickly scroll to another face because of fashion reasons, wanting to have a different look for a different time, a different place, and all those things was pretty interesting. There seems to be a large emphasis on fitness and working out, and being able to track that and make that also community oriented, where you can share with your friends and family, and I think I'm always been somebody who wanted to track my workouts, and did that with pen and paper for a long time, do that through a number of apps now. And now to be able to share that with friends and family, create competition, that was attractive to me. People seem to love the Scribble application. Did you notice that? Every time that was mentioned, people went crazy. People loved that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like I think that's a reaction to Google. Google recently, during their developer conference, they came out with a very similar, and again, they're obviously working on this simultaneously, but I think Apple's realized that handwriting recognition is very, very important, especially on a small device such as a watch, and to be able to, because since there's no keyboard, you have to have some way to input information on there directly instead of just tapping on something or whatever. So Google did something similar to that. Very, very similar. Apple's had a pedigree with handwriting recognition. I remember way back when the Newton came out. I forget, man, when was that? That was like that must have been early '90s, I think. And of course, I was one of the ones that got the Newton early on, and the thing was way ahead of its time, certainly. But and it worked okay. You know, it was black and white. It was expensive. I think it was like $600 or $700. It was crazy. It was kind of bulky. I mean, for the time, it was great, but it was kind of bulky, and you know, so it worked sometimes. I think now with the processing power, I think it's going to work a lot better. I think they've learned, but I think also the big news, I think, is finally now, if you're a watch owner, then now you have a way to input text, you know, type text on the screen. There's no way you're going to be able to do any kind of keyboard on a device as small as a watch, certainly, unless you want to do some type of Bluetooth keyboard, but that would defeat the purpose of having the watch. So having that, being able to write on the screen for quick entry, I think is great, you know. And I mean, again, it remains to be seen how well it works, but I really like that. And you mentioned the bitness improvements. For me, that's always been a big selling point of the watch, whether it's using the workout app itself, where you have structured workouts, where you're tracking running or other types of exercise, or just tracking your steps, you know, in the and I forget the name of the app, Mark, but that just tracks your steps, the activity app. And that just automatically tracks everything, your activity, your heart rate, and all that stuff. And it also interfaces with the health app on the watch and on the phone. But that's always been a focus of theirs. And frankly, for me, I've had the watch now for a little over a year, and it's been great. I mean, that's one of my favorite features. It really tracks it, and I think it really holds you accountable. You know, even people complain about the stand. It has this app where it tells you to stand up every hour, and it kind of bugs you. And it, you know, in fact, a lot of people turn it off. But I think it holds you accountable. You know, it works really well. You know, and I think now with Watch OS 3, the third iteration of the software, I think now you're starting to see some moves forward as far as what the promise was in the beginning, as far as native apps, what they can do, really making it useful. Because frankly, I think up in like the first version, you know, it was rather slow. That was the big complaint, is apps launching slowly. Now, you know, seeing the demo earlier today, as far as how quickly apps launch now, they're almost instantaneous. So I think the story is, you know, and I would imagine that this would run on current versions of the watch. I would suspect that they would announce a new watch if they don't do it today, which there's no reason to expect that to happen. Probably do it in the fall or the summer. You know, Watch 2.0, at least the hardware. But it sounds like at least the third version of the software will run on any of the watches, which is great. And again, this is kind of typical of what Apple does, is they kind of put stuff out there and they improve it and iterate and iterate and iterate. And I'm happy to see that. I don't need a lot of crazy features. I just need stuff to work, you know. And I think, you know, and also that's really the promise of Apple, right, Mark? I mean, if you have, that's one of the benefits of going in all Apple, is that everything's supposed to work together, and frankly, it does pretty well. I mean, I will say for this, you know, as far as I'll give you one example: the phone calls. You know, I have my watch, you know, and notifications especially. So I'm walking around, I can leave my phone down, and I'm getting email notifications or text notifications or even phone calls on my watch. And what's great about that is I can determine, you know, whether I want to even interact with it or not. 1 second, and I don't have to run into the other room, get my other device, get my phone, and I can determine quickly if I want to interact or not, or postpone it. So I think that's big. And I know they announced, like, an example, universal copy and paste. And again, just seeing it quickly here, something to the effect that now within the whole ecosystem, you know, if you copy something, then it's available on all your devices to paste. There's no special thing you got to through. Things like that, I think, are really, really good as far as what Apple provides.
Yeah, I just came across that the other day. I copied and pasted something and wanted to be able to access that on another device. And yeah, by the time you figure out how to do that, you might as well just retype whatever you had originally typed. So the thing that you mentioned, it being intuitive, I don't have a whole lot to compare it to because I don't have the original watch, but it seems very intuitive in regards to spotting trends, spotting habits, or helping you to form good habits. So that, I think that's important. This is something that doesn't affect me, but I thought for wheelchair users, instead of forcing those people to adapt to the fitness app, for example, the fitness app for them is much more usable and applicable to their needs based on the features that it has now. None of us want to think about an emergency, and hopefully that's not used, but for the one time that it might be, that was pretty impressive too.
Oh, definitely, absolutely. I think that's the key thing, and I'm kind of spying on the keynote here, and just to give you guys a update here, this is what they're. It looks like they have a third-party demonstration going on right now on the Apple stage. I'm not sure what it looks like they're doing something with messages, and it's interesting looking at this right now. One of the rumors that was prevalent, and this just came out just in the past week, and I don't know if they've announced it yet. I'm trying to keep an eye on it here, but I think there's rumor out there that iMessages is supposed to come to Android, which would be huge, and that's always been the promise. That's been the promise of even FaceTime, to be honest with you. That was supposed to be open. That was supposed to go to all the different platforms. It really didn't. I think iMessage with the trend in messaging, I mean, all you have to do is look at Snapchat to see how important that is. And so that's the rumor. I haven't seen anything to that effect. They're doing this demo right now on the stage, and I'm not exactly sure what they're demoing. It looks like it's a third-party product. I don't recognize these individuals. I don't think they're from Apple. And also I'm trying to find stuff or advances or announcements that are video related here, and and I'm not sure if I've seen anything yet. A lot of this keynote has been software related, software based, and so I'm looking at this here. I'm not sure, and again, I'm not sure what they're demoing here. Ross and folks in the chat room, when we were talking about the TV, I think that's a big item. I was watching the Apple TV. In fact, I have yet to get one. I'd like to get a new one. I have the Generation 2 version. But I think with the apps on the TV, in fact, our friend Stephen Haywood, he has an app on the TV. You can watch the Tech Buzz. I think, Mark, we got to get an app on there someday soon. In fact, you got to get an app for your college football videos as well and your site. But I think that's a big item. That's kind of that's talking on the video side, but this whole ecosystem and everything being an app instead of a channel. If you want to watch something, and they were demoing the other big thing I think with Apple TV. And I like this. I really am happy that they went this direction, but they've gone with universal search. So if you, like many times, you don't care where the program that you want to watch is on, what service it's on. And I'm watching. Let's see if Craig Federighi announces that it's going to be Android here. I can't. I'm going to see here. Let's see if I'm going to turn this up a bit. Oh, it looks like they just released the iMessage API, iMessage apps. So it looks like Messages is becoming its own platform, which is interesting. And we were just talking about message. Look at that. They have an app store. They have a whole. This is very interesting now. So what Craig Federighi is describing here, Mark, is like we were talking about with messaging being such a phenomenon, one-to-one messaging and personal messaging. It looks like they're going after. Everyone's going after Snapchat here. So he's showing on the screen here, he's showing animations, he's showing emojis. It looks very, very much like you would see in any other messaging app. And also looks like you can send money through the app as well. That's what Facebook's doing. So that's very, very interesting. And I think the biggest thing is they have a whole section in the App Store now for messaging apps. So he's going to do a demo here. But that's interesting. That is really interesting here, and you can see where Apple's going with this. It's a whole ecosystem here. So obviously they see the value in messaging apps, very, very important, because they're now breaking it out in its own separate API, own separate app store. Mark, I'm not sure how much you use texting, and your kids probably are texting fiends, right?
Well, they are, but I would consider myself a texting fiend. I don't want to be, but I am texting constantly. I don't know how many text messages. I was just going through my bill last night, and it's all covered, but yeah, I don't remember the number of texts that I had last month. It was some crazy number, over 1,000. So I'm forced to text a number of times myself. We were on the path of continuity and the ease of use. The single sign-on for the TV, I would think, would be enormous.
Big. I'm glad you mentioned that. That, to me, that's huge, and that speaks to, again, there's a lot of people watching this keynote that are geeky, that like all this stuff. But one thing I think Apple's done a nice job is they're all about the regular user. So you're absolutely right. I mean, how many times do you want to put in your password for various services? So it's sort of like what Facebook does with Facebook Sign On. Twitter does the same thing. You can sign on through your Twitter credentials, and you can log in. And now Apple TV, which is a great move, because frankly, as we were talking about, everything being in an app, and you don't want to have to sign into all these things. So once it's on your Apple TV, everything goes through that one Apple logon, even though you go into different services. I think would be fantastic.
You know what else I like, Marty? Going back to the connection between the watch and the Mac OS is that if you've got the watch on and everything being there being continuity between all the different platforms and applications, is you don't need to sign in. You don't need to log in. And so I'm picturing myself as they're showing the demonstration where the person just puts their hands to the laptop and it logs them in, versus I'm up here and my hands are this high trying to log in, and I mistype and I'm trying to set up a hangout or whatever I'm doing, and yeah, the automatic login, it seems like just kind of a guilty pleasure or something that's not necessary. And of course it's not necessary, but it would save 10 to 20 seconds, but just when you're in a hurry and your mind is on other things, that would be big. I would like that.
Yeah, I agree, Mark. I mean, I think anything that's, I mean, it's not, and it's funny because it almost sounds silly that you're saving, a few seconds here, but I think it's more about, I find this on my iPhone as well, especially when you have to put in your credentials. And I use a password program called 1Password, and some of the apps are tied in, some aren't. But it's the copy and pasting between the apps is the real pain in the neck, when you come to think of it. And I can imagine on the TV, whether you have a keyboard or a remote control, that could really be a pain, especially on a TV or on a watch or a device that doesn't have a typical interface with a keyboard and a mouse and all that, where you can type things out. And the TV doesn't really. And that is, and that's important. So I think uniting everything together, I think, is a big move. A single sign-on, like you mentioned, is big, and it's just a pain to keep going back and forth, and it makes for a seamless experience. I mean, just like they were mentioning with the search, the search is now opened up to all the different platforms. So if you want to watch, say you want to watch. I don't know what's the current movie, Transformers. All right, say you want to watch the first Transformers and you don't know where it's playing. It could be playing on Netflix, Amazon. It could be just in the iTunes store. It could be streaming on Hulu, whatever it is. You can put that one thing in there, and it'll give you a selection of where to find it instantly, and then you go right there. The other thing I saw, which was really interesting, is the Siri integration. And as well as now Siri is everywhere now. So Siri is getting integrated into the desktop, into Mac OS. It's also in Apple TV. And Eddie Q was on stage, I saw briefly before, where you're able to do a search and literally go right to it. So he did a demo with ESPN where it said, show me ESPN2, and instead of just doing the search and then clicking on something, it literally goes right to the live ESPN2 feed and brings it right up instantaneously, which I thought was great. And that really makes voice search, very, very useful. So I think that's really a big thing here with this, with at least the presentation today going on right now. And I'm trying to see, I'm actually looking at the feed here. I'm trying to see if Craig Federighi mentions, he's still talking about messaging, and so, which is obviously a big push, but I'm trying to see if he is offering a Android app for iMessages. And I would think he would be, And one thing I learned, Mark, from doing this today is next Apple Keynote, I think what we're going to do is we're going to set it up. We're going to make it part of the screen, and we're going to actually talk to it and just cover it because I'm trying to do this and actually do a real show, and it's not working very well. So we'll do that next time, probably for the fall.
You are covering very well, my friend.
I appreciate that. And I'm looking at the chat room here, and I think Ross mentioned it with to Apple TV. Just open your BTS Live app or TechBuzz app or NBA TV app. Absolutely right. That's the big item there as well. Is again, if we're going with apps and the ability to just go to your favorite app, and what's really cool about this is if you're a content creator, doing video, this is something that's open to you. And it's and Steven already does it, so it's not something that is closed off. You don't need to be a big media company at all, and you can actually produce an app, and there are services, and it's certainly within reach to be able to do that. But that's where you want to be, and this is why also that, Mark, we preach quality, that you can see here. And even with today's show, you could see our setup is a little different. I'm experimenting with some different looks here. I'm kind of streamlining our look, on our on-screen look, our graphic look. I'm trying to be like a network here and come up with a graphics package. You know how that Mark goes. Remember, I was still at ESPN when they redid the SportsCenter package that they're using right now, and that was like a year project where they keep going back and forth, and a lot goes into that to make it a nice seamless experience, right? So hopefully we can do it here with our show.
Yeah, just think about that, everything that goes into that, because you're trying to create, you start with the aesthetic portion of it and the functionality in regards to what's going to draw in the viewer, what's easy for the viewer to see, what's going to grab attention, and then you need to fit it to all the various shows and platforms and work it in so it accommodates and it complements the various shows and games and variations of the graphics. So on the bottom line, in score clocks, yeah, it's there's a lot more to it than would meet the eye. So if you can take that on, Marty. Walter, I think, has an interesting question here, or just a comment, basically. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Marty, and I don't know if today's show is going to accommodate it, but it's up to you, about Microsoft taking over LinkedIn. What those ramifications are.
You know what? I'm glad Walter put that out there. I woke up this morning, and for those of you who don't know, LinkedIn, you guys are all familiar with LinkedIn. It's a professional social network, and it's been around quite some time. It's a public company. And it's really a sort of like, a professional social network where you connect with other professionals. You have, I don't want to call it a resume. I mean, you have your accomplishments, you have your, your work experience. You can join LinkedIn groups, that type of thing. It's sort of like Facebook for professionals, really. But that's an interesting story, Mark. So the story is that Microsoft has put an offer out there, and it's been accepted by LinkedIn, $26 billion acquisition of LinkedIn in full stock deal. And yeah, I mean, that's huge. I didn't even see that coming at all. And now the conjecture begins, what could Microsoft want with LinkedIn? They had previously bought a social network called Yammer, which is basically a professional social network. Mark, I know ESPN has it. I was on it when I was at ESPN. And it's funny because I haven't been on it in a couple of years now, but I'm reading stories, people posting out there about the LinkedIn acquisition. But people complaining that, oh man, Microsoft gutted Yammer and it's a shell of its former self. So it's interesting with the LinkedIn acquisition. Now, people may not realize, but LinkedIn is also the owner of a company called SlideShare, which allows you to share slide presentations on the web, shareable slide presentations. And also LinkedIn had recently acquired lynda.com, lynda.com, which is a online education service, and you can learn various things, like if you want, and mainly I think it's mainly tech and software related and those sort of things, although it has branched out into other things. But basically you can take online courses, and it's an all-you-can-eat model. You sign up for a subscription. I think ESPN has a couple licenses on lynda.com for people that want to learn. I know in the edit group they had like 5 or 6 licenses, people that want to learn After Effects. And they would be able to go on and learn that. So it's professional teaching of various, a lot of software, a lot of technology, that type of thing. And so they own that as well. And so it's very interesting Microsoft picked that up. I mean, it'll be interesting what happens. And Walter's saying he's taken a few classes from lynda.com. I have not, but it looks really, really good. But it'll be interesting what happens with that. Mark, I mean, I would think that they would want to integrate that somehow into their office. Now Microsoft also owns Skype, which we're using here to bring Mark into this show. But any initial thoughts from you? I mean, I'm not sure how much of a LinkedIn user you are. You certainly know Microsoft. But any thoughts as far as what Microsoft could be wanting with LinkedIn?
Well, I get the impression from the people that I know from a professional standpoint that LinkedIn's growing. I don't have statistics to back that up. I haven't looked into it, but more people that I know firsthand are involved and have accounts on LinkedIn than did just 3 or 4 years ago. So I think the professional base group is growing. So it seems to be a pretty healthy platform. I don't exploit it as much as I probably should. I certainly have filled out the profile, have the picture on there, have fully utilized the resume portion of it, and I post all my videos and audio podcasts to LinkedIn.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how much that generates, but yeah, I post everything on my LinkedIn account as well.
See, that's something that I got to do better on. I really got to post our show. I got to post much more on LinkedIn. In fact, it's funny because I work full-time, not only doing video production, live video production online for clients, but a large part of our business is managing social accounts, social media marketing. And LinkedIn's a big part of that. And it's funny, I'm just as guilty. I need to really take advantage of that, because I think that's, especially since you can actually blog on LinkedIn, you can share your blog post there as an actual blog post. You can share other things, like you're sharing your videos there. And so that's very valuable. I mean, there's a whole separate audience there that's professionally oriented. And I think if you're not using LinkedIn, I mean, I think it's kind of a hidden gem in a way,
Yeah, they give you those 3 options: to share, to publish a post. I forget what the middle option is there, but it's easiest to share something in terms of just easily getting something out there. But for a while, I was trying to publish because some people had suggested that I publish it, and the response was fairly impressive for just starting to do that. I think it gets into the timeline more readily. I think it's highlighted more, and seen by more people.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I think just a tip on kind of repurposing your content to LinkedIn. If it's you can certainly repurpose content that's already published on your own blog, and the approach that we normally take with clients and our own stuff is you maybe write a little bit different introduction and give a little bit different spin, so it's not completely a duplicate. But I think you can just repost if it's your content, and it's a nice way to meet another audience, really, And so yeah, definitely want to take advantage of that as well. I want to thank everyone. I think we're gonna call it a show here. One thing I learned, Mark, is don't try to watch too many things at one time. Because it just doesn't work, you know.
Well,
So I tried to get really aggressive and watch everything. So
well, yeah, I think you passed that threshold a long time ago, but you handle it rather well. I don't know if we hit like 37 different sources that you had to watch at the same time before you finally hit your threshold of what was too much.
oh, exactly. Yeah, it's a little too much. So I think on Apple Keynote days, what we'll do is either we'll move the show or we'll make it around the keynote. I mean, that's one thing that we're into, and I'll figure out a way to get it on the screen, and we'll even we have to comment on it as it goes. Then maybe we'll do it like a special live presentation or even after the fact. Want to remind everybody again to let me see if I can get my seats. Here we go. I got so many things going on here. I want to remind everyone that our show and our website, btslive.com, that's where you want to go. We're live there right now. We play our replays 24/7 as well. And so I invite you to check us out. Also, please invite everyone, if you haven't done so, join our email list. And the reason why I do this is, again, and we talked about this, owning your content, owning your processes, right? An email is something that you can really own. And really the purpose here is to make sure you guys get informed when we're going to be on. Mainly, you know, and I don't send out a lot of email. I'm going to be very, very cautious about that. So I don't flood your email boxes. In fact, there's several, a lot of people have already signed up already. But what we're planning on doing is using that as a communication tool, make sure people know when the shows are on, what the topics are, and also any kind of bonus that we can send out as well through the email and also through group. And speaking of the Facebook group, we have a Facebook group, BTS Live Facebook group. You can search BTS Live Show on Facebook, or you can go to the link on the screen, bit.ly/bit.ly/BTS Live FB, and that'll get you right to the Facebook group. If you're not already in it, you can sign up. It's a great group of individuals there, so I definitely invite you to be part of that as well. And also, I want to remind everyone that we have Stephen Haywood, the Tech Buzz, since it's Apple Keynote Day. Every Monday, and today's no exception. After this show, I invite you to, a little later on tonight, tune back in at 6 p.m. Eastern at thetechbuzz.net/live. Stephen will be live with co-hosts Mike Myers and Keith Barrett, and they'll be talking Apple Keynote in more detail than we did here, since we're actually trying to watch it at the same time, but it'll be over by then. He has a chat room, so definitely go there as well. Thank you, Walter, for posting the link to the Facebook group. I really, really appreciate it. And I also want to mention to everybody that in the chat, our loyal viewers, you guys are the best anywhere. We couldn't do this without you guys. And thank you very much for finding us and coming over to btslive.com. Other than the other destinations that we go to, and I forgot to push it onto Facebook today, figures. But basically, thank you, Brad. Basically, we went to btslive.com. We're getting away from Blab. It really is no point anymore. I'm going to try to inform people over there. I tried today, but I couldn't schedule the show. Thank you, Walter. I really, really appreciate it. But again, we learned a lesson today, Mark. Try not to do too many things at one time. Anyways, on that note, and I think we're going to call it a day here and make sure I got everything set up. Mark, thank you very much. It was a pleasure as always.
Of course.
We are going to be back next Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific, for another edition of btslive.com. I invite you guys in the Facebook group. Please post your questions. We're going to do more of that. If I see the questions in there, see stories in there, I want to try to use what you guys are posting, what you guys are interested in. Very, very important. It's really for you that we do this, and so I encourage you to be part of that as well. Thanks, Mark. We will see everyone next week. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Bye-bye.